Let's get scratching.
We got an explosive broadcast coming to you. Listen up. Sega games, just keep playing them.
We're back. It's the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show. Live. Get ready for Sega interviews and news. Hello and welcome to the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show. We are back, and on this episode, we are going to be talking to Chris Sorrentino. There are many titles and many things that he does, so I'm going to have him come on here. I'm going to roll through some of them, and we're going to touch on them as we go through the show. So here he is. Hey, there we go.
Thank you.
They liked you. It's always that same. There's a really enthusiastic woman at the top of it too. Here, let me see if I can hear her.
Yeah, I see her. Yeah.
So I brought you on for many reasons. So there's a lot of stuff that you do that I love. At the top of the list that we're featuring tonight is your art, Real REEL Ghostbusters. You do this art under the... Is it a pseudonym or is it just like your screen name, Pizzaplasm?
It's like a pseudonym. It's just basically just an art name. I just find it easier for people to remember a weird name than Chris Sorrentino, just some generic Italian name. And there's an author named Chris Sorrentino. He wrote a few books.
Yeah, I found him.
And then, the Jersey Shore show, there's a situation, Mike Sorrentino.
Yeah.
I get asked, I'm here on Staten Island. I live on Staten Island, so I get asked a lot if I'm related to Jersey Shore guy.
Wow.
So sometimes you just want like a fun name. And I was like, you know what? I kind of like, ectoplasm, protoplasm, my body does run on pizza. Like you cut me and I bleed marinara.
Right.
So, and then I grew up with Turtles and Ghostbusters and the 80s. So Pizzaplasm, it just works.
Yeah, and that's why I thought just bringing you on would be such a great fit for what our show's all about, because this is really, it's kind of just like a general Sega video gaming podcast. And growing up, I always looked at, nowadays I think kids are really smart. They know what networks are. They know what production companies are. Kids are all about Sony. I know all about what Sony's releasing. And I'm like, when I was a kid, I didn't know that Superman and Batman were different companies. I didn't know that Mario couldn't be on my Sega Genesis. You know?
Yeah, they're all studio savvy, these kids, and I guess because they hear about it through they could have Spider-Man be in a Marvel movie. They worked out a deal with Sony, and you didn't hear when I was a kid there was, oh look, Roger Rabbit. You didn't know that Warner Brothers and Disney were hammering out deals, and
right.
And Spielberg's involved bringing them together, and then they got Betty Boop in there. That's a completely other different, studio. And you're like, I'm just watching Roger Rabbit.
But nowadays kids would be like, oh, did you hear the Fleischer estate signed a deal with? And it's just man, I appreciate the knowledge that's out there, but I don't know. There was something fun about not knowing much.
Ignorance is bliss.
Exactly. And so, I had those Ghostbusters VHS tapes. I had the original Ninja Turtles VHS tape. I had my Genesis video games, and they just kind of, mixed together in me, in my mind, growing up. I didn't really, it was just all part of the experience. So it was really exciting when games would be, licensed games would come to the Genesis. I'd get super, pumped. So I want to talk a little bit later briefly about the Ghostbusters video game, but running through some of the other things you do cosplay as under the name Baby Belushi. You're on Instagram.
Correct. Yeah. I bear a resemblance to John Belushi.
Right.
Same exact height and body and the face is very similar. And he's somebody I've always loved and admired, and that's my era of comedy, my era of movies like Blues Brothers and You know what I mean?
Right.
So I uh, I go to a lot of cons and events and even parties across the country. Uh, Sometimes dressed as Jake Blues, sometimes dressed as Bluto Blutarsky from Animal House.
And you do
And
mashups sometimes too, right? Like for I guess we should get into it. So you met a friend of mine,
Mhm.
Jimmy Mack, who hosts
Yes,
Rebel Force Radio at the
yes,
Chicago Star Wars Celebration, and you were dressed as Bluto, but it was with a Star Wars twist, correct?
yeah. Well, it was actually Anaheim. I did. I went to
Anaheim.
Celebration,
You're right.
Chicago dressed as Jake Blues. It was the first
That's
time
it.
I ever really went to a con dressed up. Like I said, I would dress like Belushi. My friends have toga parties every year, and I would do it like that, and like I would open up for this Minions of Gozer Shadowcast.
Hmm.
We would open and do a Blues Brothers number. But I never like took it to cons or anything like that. I just wasn't into that. I always
Right.
loved going to cons. I've been going to cons since I was 13 years old, but I never wanted to be a cosplay. I don't want to deal with taking pictures and all that bullshit. Uh, but I was like, you know what? We're going to Chicago. Um, it's Celebration. I was like, I'm just gonna dress like Jake and I'm gonna wear a Star Wars tie, and then that's kind of how it started. So
Uh
then
huh.
Anaheim was the next one, the next U.S. Celebration. I was like, what am I gonna do if I already did Jake? I was like, you know what? How about I do Bluto Blutarsky, but it's the classic poster,
Right. Right.
drinking
Right.
the Jack Daniels in front of the American flag, shirt that says college. But instead, for Star Wars Celebration, I had the shirt made up to say Imperial Academy, and it was a hit. And then I bumped it to Jimmy, and I love Rebel Force Radio. I've been a listener like for forever, like on and off. I'm not like a big like I could always get time for a podcast in every week, but since like 2012, I've been checking in with those guys. So I saw them, and I know Jimmy's from Chicago, and I'm like, "Hey, man, come here!" And he's like, "Holy shit!" Like he's just like, "What is going on?" And he grabbed this camera, and I chugged a beer. I was outside, so it was like it was after Celebration, kind of. It was like people just hanging out outside. So I was just pounding beers. Yeah, yeah. There you go. I was pounding beers and smoking joints, and I was getting all jammed up. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Jimmy's got his camera. I was just like, Rebel Force Radio, and I chugged the beer and I crushed the can on my head, and then that led to a very tight friendship
Yeah.
with Jimmy Mack.
Yeah, and I
He's a
remember
great
when
guy.
after Jimmy met you, he just like raving. He's like, I met this guy. It was the craziest shit. It was the best thing to happen today. We've got to find him again. I hope we can find him. And like now here you are, like kind of bleeding into the Rebel Force Radio community. It's just awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I love it. It's a good community too, man. It's
Absolutely.
very cool. I met a lot of cool friends. I met a lot of good friends through the just Rebel Force Radio. I love it. I always gotta give them a shout out.
And like I was talking about earlier, like all this stuff's kind of connected. Like we have the Star Wars interests, the Ghostbusters interests, the video game
Hmm.
interests, and like you look at the lineup for some of like their shows, and it's just like it's you, it's me, it's Jimmy. It's really kind of cool and interesting how all these different people from different fandoms and communities kind of came together and got to
Yeah,
know each other.
I
Um,
love it. And
yeah,
from everywhere.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
spread out all over the place, and
it's
I love
it's
it.
it's been so much fun, and I'm just really happy that you're on. I also honestly I'm a huge fan of Super Live Adventure, your
Oh,
podcast.
thank you. Oh my god,
Yeah, which
I appreciate that.
wrapped its like ongoing run. What was that, last year?
Yeah, August of last year, we took a break to work on I shouldn't even be saying this, but I am. We took a break to work on a couple different projects. One of them
Mm,
being a graphic novel that will be completed at some point. It's
nice.
written by so my excuse me, my partner on the show, also my comedy partner, John Zaluga. He's a writer for Impractical Jokers. My best friend in the world. Um, he's writing, I'm drawing. We're cooking up the plot together. So it's a whole book that we just couldn't do a podcast and a book at the same time. But, and I also shouldn't be saying this either, Super Live Adventure might be coming back in some capacity towards the end of this year.
Wow, yeah, you did that
Yeah.
Christmas special, I remember.
Yeah, we did a Christmas special. So we quit the show in August, then wound up coming back in December just to do a Christmas special because we just missed getting together and doing a podcast. And then recently we've been kicking around a couple of ideas, and you're like, you know what, we could maybe squeeze something in.
Nice.
And
Yeah, I mean,
so
I gotta say, I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of them, and I often get recommended comedy podcasts, and then they always end up being like guys who I recognize from like maybe old sketch comedy shows or like bit parts in movies, and they're in these really like staged sets. They've got the mic hanging here. Everything's filmed in vertical and horizontals to fit Instagram
yeah,
and
TikTok, ready to
right,
go,
and it
packaged
just
up and
feels
ready to go.
so overly produced. And then the content they put out is just like mid tier. It's just not. It's like something that doesn't match the set, and it doesn't. It never grabs me. I mean, there's very few that do. But what I just loved about yours is it's just two guys talking. You don't do video; it's audio only, so it leaves a lot to the imagination, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I like that.
And you're
I
both
like
visual. I guess I don't know. Like you're. He's a writer. You write some. Right? You write, right?
Yeah, I mean, not anything professionally in a while,
Right.
but yeah, like I said, we collaborated on this comic, and like I'll write like little bits for Super Live Adventure. We'd write like an egg dump soup commercial or something like that. Other than that, we would eggdumpsoup.com, by the way, is a sponsor of the show.
Right.
And every episode they got a brand new commercial. But yeah, just we'd come in with some stuff like that prepared, but other than that,
Right.
just like we just didn't have any plan. We would just sit down in a kitchen, either
Right.
like his house or my house,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
drink a ton of beer, smoke a lot of pot, and just bullshit,
Right.
and then take listener voicemails, and
Yeah.
it wound up getting completely insane. Like guys would call and just fart, and people just call. There was characters. There's a robot
Yeah.
version of a person. It was a crazy. It was a really crazy experience.
Yeah. It's like stream of consciousness conversation, but there's always
Yes.
like there's topics that come back, occasionally on episodes, but it's just there's
Yeah.
very few podcasts like that where it's on the fly sort of stuff where you're not bringing in guests really occasionally, but you're not like tonight we're going to talk
It wasn't a
about
guest
and also I appreciate that it's not like we're going to talk about politics, just because I feel like some shows guys are like I got to get into I gotta like educate some young adults on
Yeah,
the ways of the world.
we kind of steered away from that. The closest we got into it was we actually got a shot clock. That was we'd set it for a minute, and when somebody was feeling dark and heavy, and they were like, "I have to rant," set the shot clock, and no matter what you were in the middle of, when it goes off, you have to shut the fuck up and change the topic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the closest I came to a political podcast on our show was we were recording on January 6th, and
Oh no way!
and we were like talking about video games and stuff, and then I was like also checking the news, and I'm like,
How could you
oh,
not?
wow,
Yeah,
cool. Anyway,
yeah.
yeah. So Game Gear, man. But yeah, so let's talk about the real Ghostbusters project. So I'm gonna bring up here. This is the website you have for the project. It's
Yeah.
where a lot of the art
Yeah.
lives right now.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you tell me how did this project begin? What was the
All
first?
right. Before I do that, before anybody breaks my balls, that's the recreation of the movie poster. Winston's not in the original poster.
Right.
If Winston could have been, I would have been more than happy with it. I'm just trying to recreate that. I get a lot of shit online from people. Two things: either like this is AI, or that I'm a horrible racist because I did not include Winston on the poster. Like, I do plenty of pieces of art with Winston. I'm just trying to faithfully recreate scenes from the movie in the style of the cartoon. So that's basically what I do is, like I just said, scenes of the movie in the style of the cartoon, but it's looks like a still from like an episode of the cartoon, as opposed to just art, just fan art.
Right.
And you know what, Ghostbusters is something I've loved since the moment I saw it at 5 years old, and the cartoon a couple of years later really took a hold of me, the toys, and I was obsessed for a long time. I didn't even know there was other Ghostbusters fans. I was just like this, just obsessed, and I would read the role-playing game from West End Games. I would just read the supplements and like any of the Now comic books, because there wasn't that much Ghostbusters merch out there.
Right.
But there was this, when Ghostbusters 2 finally rolled around, there was this adaptation from Now Comics where it was the real Ghostbusters in the movie Ghostbusters 2. But it was the comic book version. It wasn't drawn like the cartoon. It was drawn like, which great artwork is
Right.
John Tobin, the co-creator of Mortal Kombat. Just weird.
Yeah.
But so maybe is his name Tobin? Something like that. I might have screwed up his name. I have been mixed up with Tobin Spirit Guide. But I always wanted to see what the first movie would look like as a cartoon. I always wanted to see, Dana Barrett. And,
Right.
you know what I mean? And just Gozer and like what that all would look like. So I just started doing this like just for the heck of it in between like jobs and stuff, just to cleanse my palette, because I do a lot of freelance art for other people and businesses and productions and stuff like that I appreciate the work and I love it. I put everything of myself into my art.
Right.
But sometimes I need a break from drawing what other people want, and I draw what I want, and this is what that was. And then I was like, you know what, let me just start rolling with it. And I eventually plan on putting together a book, compiling it almost like I had a weird idea of doing it almost like this like weird movie storybook. You know what I mean? Like an old school, but like that this was actually in production. Like somebody found like this abandoned like cartoon studio in Italy or somewhere, you know what I mean, just shut down, and they found this and they were like, oh my god, this movie was in production, and like putting it out under a fake name. And
Right.
and so even like this piece right here, I incorporated the toys. So I put like the toy zombie in as the cab driver zombie, which I thought was a weird, fun idea. But I thought it would be cool to like incorporate the toys also. Before that was really like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like it started, Afterlife did it. They put the Bug-Eye Ghost.
They did, movie. And they almost put Bad to the Bone in. Did you see that?
I saw that.
And I was like, oh man, and it looked so creepy.
Right? What a missed opportunity, man. If anything, that new Ghostbusters movie was lacking, it was ghosts.
Right.
They had a whole facility for ghosts. Fill it with ghosts.
Yeah.
Just have a bunch of ghosts running all over the place.
There were like maybe 4 or 5 in there, which were I liked the ghosts that we did get, but I feel like they should have doubled it, tripled it. Maybe.
Agreed.
Yeah. I love this one. So let me know, like, what's your process on this? Like, what applications or programs do you use?
Just 2: Procreate and Photoshop.
Wow.
I do most of my art, the line drawing on Procreate. Just I'll actually grab the movie still and kind of draw over it. I'll take stills from the cartoon to make sure I'm matching the style, the colors. You know what I mean? Like everything has a very distinct look, and it's hard. This is the hardest part of it. It's hard to nail a character's likeness, because if you actually break down the cartoon, episodes are done by different studios and they have different looks. So some episodes have like more of an anime look. Some are just kind of like look junky. Like some episodes look like shit.
They do.
I'm not even gonna. And some look gorgeous. There's probably like 5 different studios working on this like under Deke working for them. They get like subcontracted, I guess, and you could see notable differences between episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of pinpoint that, median version that you'd recognize is that character without questioning, you know what I mean? Or without
Right.
like, oh, is that Egon? Like that's the quintessential Egon. You know what he looks like. But it's almost like a AI process. Like I have to filter in my head all these different versions and try to come out with the best one. It's very bizarre. It's very, very hard.
And I mean, when you do the afterlife stuff, like I'm trying to see if Phoebe's on here. I know she's in the store, so I'll go there. But like when you're doing Phoebe, you almost have to like reimagine her because she's cartoon Egon's granddaughter, not movie Egon's granddaughter. So she looks very different, but it works, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I had to incorporate like the chin, the lips, of course, the hair, the curl in the front, but keep it softer, make it a little more, feminine and and just and younger. So it's a weird balance. It's a weird line you got to walk with it. And it's a lot of trial and error. You just work with it. That's what I love about working digitally now. So I've been drawing forever. Always, pencil to paper. That's what I lived by.
Mm-hmm.
And drawing digitally now, like it's so much better, light years beyond the process.
Right.
I originally did it just so I could draw on the go, so I could just get more work done.
Yeah.
And I was drawing and scanning it into Photoshop anyway, and then doing touch-ups, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Am I a jerk off? I'll just draw digitally, and I don't have to do this whole process. And I didn't even think of the fact that like you don't have to erase something 17 times. You just hit back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could save if you liked the way something looked and you inked it and it looked like shit. You're like, oh, I just inked my pencils. I have to redraw this. Now I saved files of everything. It's a beautiful way to work.
Absolutely.
So like each character, everything you'll see, each color is basically a separate layer.
Mm-hmm.
So I could keep playing with that. You know what I mean? Till it works. Sometimes I'll apply filters to age it. You know what I mean? And like blurs and stuff like that. That sometimes that color that looked beautiful before you fucked with it.
Yeah.
Before you tweaked it, now looks like garbage. So I could just take that one layer and mess with it. I don't have to take apart a whole piece of art. It's a godsend. I love it.
So let me ask you, like, have there, as the process goes along, I have to imagine that you're learning new like tricks to imitate the cell animation process, including the downsides to it, I'd imagine. Yes. So are there any that come to mind that you've noticed in cell animation? They're like, well, I got to tweak this to replicate that.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's blurs. There's everything like from the 80s. Any kind of like still, it looks like it's taken off of VHS tape. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like it just will. Like you just go grab a still of Voltron. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna have that look, and Ghostbusters will have that look. So, excuse me. There's like a cocktail of filters and blurs that, like a secret blend of spices, herbs and spices that I apply to these things, and some of them differ between pieces. So like this is the afterlife. It looks more anime because it's more like of an updated. Like this would have been done. Like maybe late 90s, right? If the real Ghostbusters was a movie in the mid 80s, you know what I mean? Like So I kind of try to even update that. It's mad. It's crazy. Yeah. There's a lot of craziness behind it all that people never know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty extensive collection of like animation cells, and some things I really notice are like when they start to layer on too many characters, the back layer is like more subdued in color when I'm watching the show, and so I'll remove all the layers and just look at that like fresh that fresh layer that was in the back, and I'm like, oh, so this character was not like painted poorly. It's that they layered like 3 or 4 animation cells on top of them. So like when they photographed it, it just, the colors weren't correct.
Yeah, I never realized that. Yeah, you're right.
And it's funny because now you'll see shows. There was a time when they were adding a little slight backdrop to like digital animation. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but they would they go in there just because it looked too clean. Like I remember the first digitally inked Simpsons episode looked awful. It was the tennis one, I think, and it was a test episode, and everything looked too bright and yellow. And they realized that white does not exist in The Simpsons. It's like an off-white.
Yeah, same thing with Ghostbusters. I've done that, color in the Ecto-1. The Ecto-1's not white. The Ecto-1's like a weird, very light pink.
Right.
Honestly.
That's so true.
But yeah, it reminds me of like Rob Coleman doing the prequel special effects, the Star Wars prequel special effects, and they had the Yoda, digital Yoda, they something was off about him, and they had to add the rubber bounce of the ears from the puppet because just a flawless digital Yoda just didn't sit well.
Right. Yeah. I remember that.
Make it rubbery.
They were saying like, why is his mouth doing this? And it's like, well, I think that's Frank Oz's hand like doing that.
Yeah.
So they would actually have to like, which is not natural. Like no one's like,
yeah, Muppet mouth.
It is
Nobody
Muppet
has real
mouth.
Muppet mouth.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with Muppet mouth, so we should probably not get into that.
Condolences.
That's wild. So yeah, so as I mentioned, I have a second camera, so I might as well utilize it. So I just wanted to bring out some of the weird cells I have. So
I love that, by the way.
And just let me, like, this is kind of a weird idea I had. So like, look at some of these. Like, I'm going to find some of the shitty ones. This one's kind of bad. Like, you're showing off some really great stuff, but, like, have you ever considered taking a bad frame from the movie and doing it almost as though it's, like, a cell that...
Listen, I have...
Yeah.
Kinda, but the thing is... I'm going to sound so shitty saying this, but... like in these fan groups and stuff, it's like I show off a lot of my stuff through fan groups and online, and it gets me a lot of business. Sells my print. Gets to me. So some of these people don't have the capacity to understand what I'm doing, and it wouldn't go over well.
Be too meta.
Yes,
I guess.
Yeah, too meta. We just go over too many heads. Where I know, like, guys like me and you would really appreciate it.
Here's my favorite shitty Back to the Future cell I have. It's a wheelchair. Isn't that awful?
Is that Jules or Vern? I never remember the difference. Is he the wiener kid? You ever see that?
I think the kid
clip?
pointing to his dick. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the one, right?
Yeah.
It's the animated version of Wiener Boy.
Back to the Wiener Boy. But I got these in like a bulk, through the Animation Legends before they closed down. But this is a great one.
Cool. Yeah. That's very cool.
Clara!
Yeah.
But the best one I have is, I really like this one.
That's cool.
It's like
that's really cool.
Chariot with, these must be like robots because they're Sonic the Hedgehogging.
Yeah, right, they're very Sonic the Hedgehogging. You got Marty McMullet.
Yeah.
In them. That is killer right there.
That's a cool one.
You know what's weird about that show? Christopher Lloyd would come in and do intros and outros, but he wasn't like the voice, I think, of
He wasn't. Doc. It was Dan Castellaneta.
No way! Dan Castellaneta strikes again.
Yeah.
Unsung hero of those like 90s cartoons, late 80s cartoons. Oh, like Aladdin and everything. He's like in everything.
I know. And I mean, he has the dream job as Homer, but he's also like the double for so many well-known ones. Yeah. I love this one.
Is that a Tannen?
That's Confederate Biff Tannen yelling at Marty and yelling at a dog, which is great. Einstein's there.
It's slavery, Marty.
And I love this one. It's like Pirate Marty.
Oh, that's fucking great. That looks very Jake and the Neverland's Pirates. But
Yeah. Oh, and here's
teenager.
one, like, I always thought this one looked like Andor. Marty, if he was on, like, in Star Wars, a dark,
Wow.
gritty Star Wars.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
it's
cool.
actually, you can take his head off.
Oh, that's cool.
Or it's
That's
like, Marty,
really...
you'll cease to exist. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think, yeah, Tom Wilson, it says in the chat here, voiced Biff. So he came back.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Very,
He's kind
very
of like
cool.
the C-3PO, where it's like he'll do it no matter what.
Yeah, Anthony Daniels of the Back to the Future. Wow. Yeah, look at that. I
And
guess
there's
that's
some,
the close up of that previous shot.
yeah, and then there's some
That's
Ewoks
benchmark
ones
there.
in here too. I'm not going to go through them all, but just like weird random Ewok stuff.
Wow.
I love
Ewoks had cool designs.
the Dulocks. The drawings on these, it's almost
Oh,
like
yeah, the bad guys. Yeah.
they didn't quite let go of their like Fritz the Cat aesthetic, like the
Yeah.
animators. They're still like, oh, let's get freaky with these guys.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's such a
But
cool design. I love the colors. It's very like monstery, Scooby Doo monster colors. Like I like it. I
yeah,
like it a
and
lot.
then going back to what you were saying with like, should you even consider going in and picking a bad frame? Looking through these, like a lot of them were actually pretty cool. Like they're not iconic
Yeah.
scenes, but they're interesting sort of portrayals of the character. Like their eyes are open, they're interacting with something. It looks cool, except for the wheelchair one.
Yeah, well, that's pretty rough.
So when you're
Yeah.
going through, like, do you like the one I saw was the librarian, but the not the ghost one, but like the living librarian, but it's just her back. And I know that's an iconic scene with the cards coming up. But do you look through? Do you actually like have the whole movie there, and you just kind of go through and find things that look good to you, or do you look for iconic shots or a mix?
At first, it was iconic shots, and then when
Yeah.
I said I'm going to do it maybe as a storybook, I started looking at it in a narrative way. Like I was
Right.
editing almost like my own storybook of like, well, I think I should include this scene and then this scene, just like what would be a good narrative to follow, but also be aesthetically pleasing too.
Yeah.
There's something where you could kind of pick it up and almost follow a story. Like
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
did want to put all the text in Italian, just because I thought it was funny.
That would be great.
It's gonna happen.
Oh my god.
It's real weird.
I don't know if you've ever seen the book. It's Star Wars Frames by George Lucas. It was one of the last projects he did before he sold to Disney.
No, I don't know about that.
It's an art book. The original one was insanely expensive, and then they released a much cheaper one. And by cheaper, I mean it was still like $100 or something. But they're two massive books, at least the cheap version. One for the prequels and one for the original trilogy. And George went through the film frame by frame and selected, I don't know how many per film, maybe 50 or 100 or 500, something like that. But it's him just picking stills that he thinks look aesthetically interesting or pleasing. And
That's cool.
you might think, oh, he's going to pick the iconic shots that I see on the back of the VHS box or stuff. But no, it's like he
Yeah.
likes like a weird blurry shot where like there's a stormtrooper here and a laser bolt coming right through the screen. You never see that on like any merch, but for George, he was going through and he's like, this is iconic, or this looks cool to me.
That's wild. And
yeah.
it's completely, and you're looking at it, he's looking at it from a completely different lens than we're looking at it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like everything, like when you think of Star Wars immediately, I bet you it's something that's been like a Topps trading card or a picture from a book, or you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah, like you said, like a VHS cover or picture on the back. That's like the immediate thing you conjure up. But for George, God, who the hell knows what the hell his immediate thought
Right.
of Star Wars is? I'd love to know. It's got
You'd be like, what's Star Wars to you, George? He's like, oh, it's when Jar Jar grabbed Qui-Gon and they fell. You're like, that? Yeah, them just falling. It's great.
squeeze me.
You think he's going to see it right now while it's in theaters? That would be...
I hope so. I hope so.
He wears like a... I guess he can't wear a fake beard. He wears a beard over his beard, maybe. I don't know.
Like a big Grizzly Adams beard.
Yeah, he's just sitting
Still got
there.
the flannel. It's like,
God. And he does like a selfie. He's like, hey, guess where I am? Posts it up on his private Instagram account. Man. So I had one other bit here regarding animation. I know you saw this when I was testing the connections earlier. So I just want to run through three of them are pretty obscure. One of them's not so much. But I just want your take on how they adapted film to animation, specifically like the character designs on these. This first one is Dumb and Dumber, the animated series, which I should note, I forgot which year it is, 93 or 94, but Jim Carrey had The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura all in one year.
It had to have been 1994 because I know Alamo is showing Dumb and Dumber as a 30th anniversary thing.
Okay. And then they did animated series for all three of those from different studios with different guys doing Jim Carrey in all three of them.
Oh, really?
Isn't that weird?
I didn't know that.
Different voice actors. So it's like, let's bring this guy in for The Mask, this guy in for Harry. But what are your thoughts just looking at this and what you remember from the series? Like,
oh my God. Well, I you know what? I'd love to hear the voices again. I'd love to hear all three Jim Carreys and see all three. You know, I'd love to hear Ace and Lloyd and The Mask with Stanley.
Oh, that's a Comic-Con panel. You know, just waiting to happen.
Oh my
For the
God.
anniversary, they could be like, we brought the three Jim Carrey voices, and then Jim Carrey takes the stage.
Yes,
as a surprise.
Jim Carrey's the moderator.
Yeah, Jim Carrey moderates the three Jim Carrey animated voice actors. That'd be great.
Call it Jim and Jimmer or something.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoy. I don't remember watching like this regularly. Like, I don't think it was like one of these because I was already like a little older by 94 anyway. I was born in 78. So like I remember like that, you know, the Jim Carrey, the Lloyd Christmas is perfect. The Harry, I don't know. It's like, you know, it's a lot of liberties taken.
It's a little bit of like Barney Rubble and Peter Griffin.
Okay, yeah.
He's got the ball chin.
Smashing together. Yeah. Oh,
but
God,
it's the show must have been extremely, I mean, dumbed down even more for kids. Like there probably was zero gross out, zero, you know, I very much doubt the humor carried over.
No farts or anything. I wonder who like the like antagonist was, like who they like repeatedly like had like tried to, you know, tried to foil Lloyd and Harry's plans every week. Like who,
must have just been like with the Three Stooges, where it's just like the same, like different people every time.
Yeah,
you throw them into different situations,
and they just—it's like they're the original Impractical Jokers. They're messing with each other, and everybody else around is changing.
This next one, it's not obscure. It's Beetlejuice, which is actually seeing a sequel this year. This one, I mean, just from a writing perspective, it's really weird that they're best friends here when he was trying to like make her a child bride in the movie. Yeah,
they took a lot of liberties with this one. It was always weird that the Maitlands were gone.
Yeah,
you know, the Gene Davis and Alec Baldwin, the Maitland character, Barbara and Adam. Oh my God, I can't believe I remembered that. Yes, but I love the designs on these. I loved how weird this fucking thing would get. And you know what's crazy to tie this into Sega Genesis? One of my favorite games, Decap Attack, starring Chuck Ed. Always the style of that game reminded me of the style of this cartoon so much that like when I was younger I thought they were like synonymous in a weird way. Like I thought they were kind of like, you know, like a cross thing or something, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it looked like it just came right out of this cartoon. Like he could have been one of his friends, like Beetlejuice's friend. You know, when you see like all the supporting cast is like the people who live like Beetlejuice's neighbors, like a spider lady and like a big, and then like weightlifting skeleton. Yeah,
like a French skeleton who's into like
aerobics. He had like a big French mustache.
Right, and the joke was he could never put on muscle because he was a skeleton.
Yeah. It was like a guy who owned that dog Forgot what that guy looked like. He was a big
wasn't he?
Texan or something.
He looked like the monster guy from Looney Tunes, a little
Oh,
bit.
the big hairy guy.
Behemoth or whatever it's called. I don't know. Yeah. All right, this next one is Camp Candy. Do you remember Camp Candy?
I remember Camp Candy. Like at Camp Candy.
So this was not based on any movie, to my knowledge, was it?
No, it's just like I think they took the concept. Okay, so in the 80s was a weird time with cartoons where not only did they adapt films, they took like people and were like, you know what, we're gonna give you a cartoon. They had like a weird like Rick Moranis Monster High show where like Rick Moranis was the principal, and then they gave John Candy this, and then like let's give Louis Anderson, that might have been more 90s, but like let's give
Life with
Louis Anderson a whole thing, and like let's give Howie Mandel a whole thing. It's just like not based on anything. It's just like just go nuts with it. And I think Camp Candy was one of those things where it's just like somebody probably, you know, somehow came up with an idea to like, all right, let's do well, I gotta see why you come up with a camp idea. I mean, I love Salute Your Shorts. I love Wet Hot American Summer. I love Meatballs. All 4 of them. Like, I'm a summer camp guy. I love summer camp. I don't know why. I just think it's a funny setting because you could throw like any group of kids, and like, you know, you got nerd and fat kid,
right?
The tough kid, and you know what I mean? Like you throw all those dynamics together. There you go. That's definitely the nerd, and like
they look like the Burger King Kids Club, if I'm honest.
Kind of do. They're one wheelchair short of a Burger King.
Well, I don't know. He could be on his knees, maybe, the little kid. I don't know.
His handicap is he has a huge hat.
The fancy girl.
But I think somebody was like, let's do this, but attach somebody to it. They brought it to John Candy.
Right.
And he said, yeah, because I can't imagine John Candy saying like, you know what I should do? A cartoon. Let me get a studio to make a cartoon about me being a camp counselor. Like, hey. I think if Candy said no, they would have went to, you know, I don't
Gilbert Godfrey.
Camp Godfrey.
Hello, kids. Yeah.
Now line up over there.
Oh my God, this last one's really weird. Have you ever heard of this one, Little Shop?
Yeah, where they're kids, and like it's an interesting design choice.
It's very interesting. I watched the first episode last week, and all the sets, the whole show looks like this. Like, it's blue background with then nothing's painted really. It's just like shapes calling out. Like, look at that. It's there.
Yeah. It's very, you ever see that, like, Fantasia 2000 segment of Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah.
It's like it looks like that. And I think Audrey, too, is the same voice. That guy who's, I forgot his name. He's also the singer from the Bus Boys, who do the song from Ghostbusters. Cleaning up the town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then here's Rick Moranis up here. Like, as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, they totally retooled it.
Yeah, they made them kids.
No one dies.
I guess that's Audrey with the dark hair.
I guess that's Audrey, and then these are the singers, the 3 women from the movie. They're flowers.
Yeah, it's Mr. Mushnick looks like a Mr. Mushnick.
Yeah, and then he would just kind of be like, "I'm going to cause a little trouble," but it's like, I'm not going to kill anyone.
No,
and it's like, no, you can't.
Yeah. I like the eyes on the stalks. That's an interesting and bold choice.
Yeah, they did a lot with him. Like, they'd bring him down, and he'd like have it bent down, and they'd be here if he wants to like change his face. But
yeah,
just this like, such a weird cross section of live action film or notable actors getting cartoons.
Okay, speaking of Jar Jar, Audrey 2 does look kind of Jar Jar.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, you look at some of the Jar Jar art, and he looks very different when he brings his eyes down versus when he puts them up or like starts to stretch them out a little bit.
I like that though.
You like Jar Jar?
It's very. I like the expressiveness. I don't hate Jar Jar. I do not hate Jar Jar. I have to say, I don't love Jar Jar, but Jar Jar doesn't make me want to like kill myself like some people go on and on about. I've seen worse.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know worse. I know worse people than Jar Jar.
You know, like, worse people, like, in life.
Yeah, in life.
Well, yeah, I
deal with
definitely
on a
do.
daily basis. Where I was like, you know what? If you were Jar Jar Binks, I'd like you a lot more.
He's dependable. He's a nice guy. I think he's just kind of a fuck up, but
He's a fuck up, but he means you no harm.
yeah,
He's not the guy who's going to fuck you over on purpose.
that's true.
Jar Jar's not going to do that.
No. Well, moving on to video games. So I wanted to know,
Yes, sir.
what video game consoles and games did you grow up with?
I was a big I had a 2600 as a kid. I wasn't a huge 2600 guy though. Like I had like a couple of games. I had Ghostbusters, and you know what I mean. Like, I wasn't like my dad probably played it more than me. I kind of was like arcade game to. We used to have a great place in New Jersey, right across the bridge, called Razzmatazz. It was like a Chuck E. Cheese or a Showtime pizza type of thing, and it was just bananas. It was like if you got invited to a birthday at Razzmatazz, like you had the best weekend ever. I had a birthday at Razzmatazz. It was
Nice.
the best. And then once NES kind of hit the scene, like '85. Like I was like 7 by then. I probably got an NES like 9, and then the Game Boy when that hit. I think that was like '89. So like I was huge with that, and I didn't have a Master System, but I knew a kid that did, and I was always envious of that Ghostbusters game. That Master System game was just bonkers, man. That was a fun game, and like that's what like got me so upset about the Nintendo games. It wasn't the Master System game.
Yeah, that Nintendo or the Master System one too. It had more control options, I think, or the difficulty was a lot easier. Yeah.
The Marshmallow Man would just appear in front of a building, and you had to fight him, and he'd like try to stomp you out, and he was like, crazy. And I was like, oh, please give me that.
Did you have any like favorite games based on movies or cartoons, or did you stick more to the like stuff that originated as a video game? You know what I mean?
Well, for NES, it was more, like Nintendo produced games.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda. I'm a Legend of Zelda freak. Anything like that, like even like Excite Bike. I remember I loved that. I just love building my own tracks, stuff like that. But all the licensed stuff I did get, and it was all just garbage. Like I said, Ghostbusters 2, Turtles, which I've gone back to play Turtles, and I'm fond of it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's amazing. But and then like they had the Turtles 2 arcade game, so I guess that's like like the NES port. It was like chunky as fuck, but I still dug on it. It wasn't really till I like the Turtles game and the Spider-Man game a lot for the Game Boy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All of the Foot Clan and Amazing Spider-Man. And then it wasn't really till pick up the mic a little more, sorry. It wasn't really until like the Sega Genesis that I really started digging some of the licensed stuff, like movie stuff. Like
Yeah.
That Ghostbusters game is just killer.
It's so weird, but it's so good. Like
it's so weird. But,
big head, little body, not based on the cartoons.
No,
came out in 1990, but it's very much steeped in the first film. Like it's almost like they didn't see the sequel.
Yes, yeah. Winston's not even in the game except for that homemade. Special edition. I have a copy of, by the way.
Yeah, we had him on the show, and we talked through. Honestly, like there was so much shit he was throwing at me that I was just like nodding, and I'm like, that's how you hack a game. Sure, yeah. Like it's
Hey.
The stuff that guy knows how to do is just insane.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm sorry to anyone who hasn't bought it yet. That guy sells it dirt cheap, and he shouldn't. He should double his fucking prices. He sells it for the price of just a video game. Like I think I paid like $50-$60 for.
Right.
I'm like, Yo, hey, buddy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everybody else. I would have paid you 150 for that. I'm not even
Right.
kidding.
He can just call it
Like,
an art piece, and then he can,
yeah,
you know.
it's amazing. He added like a save battery and everything. Like the guy went all in, and he's only charged $60. Like,
And there's
all
like
right.
Vigo mode, and there's all these like
Yeah,
secrets.
yeah. But so that game I dug. I dug Spider-Man for the Sega Genesis, the
Mhm.
X-Men game for the Sega Genesis. I even like Jurassic Park. It wasn't, it was a tedious game, but it wasn't the worst.
Did you ever
Gets
play
a lot
Dick
of
Tracy?
No,
Check it out.
Yeah,
It's
I
cool.
never. Yeah,
Yeah, it's from, or at least based off of Shinobi, if you've ever played those games.
Oh, yeah, I know Shinobi,
Um,
yeah.
So you're on the you're like walking on the front and shooting and punching and shooting, but then in the background it's like a shooting gallery. So it's like a second way of playing the game, and you turn around and you Tommy gun the background. And you go tick, 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 tick.
Oh,
So you'll
they
be
got like guys popping up and stuff.
yeah,
like,
yeah. So you're playing on two planes. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I would think it's weird. I never played that because I love Dick Tracy, that 1990 movie.
Yeah, that I'm a huge Dick Tracy fan. I actually dressed as the Kid when I was a kid, and my dad
No
was
way!
Dick Tracy. Yeah, I like
Oh,
dirtied
that's
my
awesome.
face up and wore like
Yeah.
the newsy hat.
That's cool. See,
Yeah.
I was like obsessed with the toys, the Playmate toys,
Oh,
and I had everything. And then there was the always the rumor, like the blank figure. I'm sure you know the whole history of the
Mhm.
blank figure, right? So it was always rumors. Like kids at school would be like, "Yeah, I saw the blank hanging at Toys R Us on Richmond Avenue." You'd be like, "No way!" And like you'd believe these kids' lies, and like so this thing was forever. Like
yeah.
I will. One of my like last thoughts as I'm dying, I'll be like, the blank. I could have had it if I went to that Toys R Us today.
They did
It
a
was
similar thing with Dr. Claw with the
Oh, I saw his face. I saw
Yeah.
like some kid would always be like, "Yeah, I saw his face."
and I'm like,
Yeah.
where? And it's like,
Yeah.
at Target. And you know what? I remember as a kid, I went to Target, and hanging from the pegs was the Dr. Claw action figure, but they, covered his face, so you had to
Oh,
buy
no
it to see his
way.
face. And some kid ripped it off the bubble just to see his face. So it was almost like the equivalent of like the Middle Ages where they would just hang the body in the square. So
Yeah.
kids would go to the Target aisle, they would look at his face and move on. No one would buy it. They'd be like, I saw his face.
Why are you gonna buy it once you see his face?
Yeah, and he looked
why are you
like-
gonna buy the cow and you get the milk
He
for
looked
free?
like this. That's it.
Oh, really?
That's all he looked. He just looked angry with like the weirdest mouth, and that was it. And it's like, oh, it's kind of disappointing, but
Got that cat always on his lap.
yeah.
Drop
Uh,
the toys or whatever.
I don't know if the
I'd
cat
kid
came
you,
with
that's
it. I don't even know if he could sit. That would suck. I don't think he could sit.
Well, it's his whole thing is sitting,
Yeah.
sitting in that chair, turning around with a cat, pet.
Yeah, yeah. I have the action
never
figures
leaves.
for Snoke and for Queen Amidala, and they can't sit. And I'm like, they sit for most of the
That's
movies.
their thing, especially Snoke.
Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking. And they came with thrones. You could buy their throne, but they couldn't sit on the throne. They'd sit, and their legs would be like out.
Yeah, straight out.
Didn't work. But yeah, so going back to that Ghostbusters game, though, it was kind of wild because 1990 it comes out after the sequel, but it takes place just after the first movie, and it got me thinking about
Yeah.
like how weird Ghostbusters canon kind of is.
It's just whatever. Yeah,
And going back to the cartoon, there's that episode where they are making a movie about the events from the first Ghostbusters, and it turns out that the Ghostbusters movie is based on the events, right? Of
that's why they're the real Ghostbusters.
exactly.
Yeah,
So-
they go and they sit there like Murray, Aykroyd, and Ramis. That sounds like a law firm. That's one of the jokes of the show. I was like, that's a great fucking joke.
yeah.
Yeah, the episode it's from season 1, I believe. It's called Take 2.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're actually hired to like be consultants as they're filming the movie. And it's pretty cool because it's actually like they have a firehouse rebuilt on a set. And
Right.
it's very much like what they just did with the last Ghostbusters movie.
It's just really weird.
Yeah.
And it's like it and then I go down the rabbit hole where I'm like, well then in the animated universe, Extreme Ghostbusters happens, but then they make Afterlife, and Egon's not in it, but Egon's the only acting Ghostbuster. So it's almost like, did the filmmakers not get the rights to Egon, so they killed him off in the movies? It's like, so is in the Extreme Ghostbusters universe, like, he's kind of pissed that they're making Frozen Empire. Like, is there some animosity there? He's like, what the fuck? Who's Gary Gruberson? Like,
why would they kill me off?
Yeah.
Why would they not have my sweet ponytail? And
that's why I get such a kick out of people going, well, is the video game canon? I'm like, this whole thing's just a mess.
None of it holds together. It's loose as fuck. I think that's kind of beautiful if you view it after every single movie, like, just everything's kind of reset.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it kind of follows, but some of it verges off into something else. And like just that whole theory. Have you heard the whole Ghostbusters 2 theory? That
no.
They're like they're in like Ghostbusters 2 theory. Yes, that Ghostbusters 2 is like purgatory, and they're like they died on top of the Shandor building.
Right.
So Ghostbusters 2 is kind of like them, like, that's why it's like the same movie over and over, like beat by beat, like they're trying to like get out of purgatory and move to the afterlife.
That's dark.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, they're saying in the chat we just witnessed a miracle, so that was nice. Something else. Yeah,
it happened.
I'm afraid to go longer because then it'll fuck up again.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. It was really bizarre.
Maybe it was, I don't know, a ghost or something. But the last bit I just wanted to move into was talking about Ghostbusters fandom in general. I know you costume. Are you in any regional groups?
Yeah, I'm in the New York City Ghostbusters. Yeah. I think since 2015. Before I mentioned I would open for a Minions of Gozer Shadowcast. And do the Blues Brothers act. My Elwood was the president, the guy who's the president of the New York City Ghostbusters now, Ryan Espen. He's how I got involved. He would also play Venkman in the Ghostbusters Shadowcast.
Oh wow!
So it was like a Rocky Horror Picture Show Shadowcast. If anybody's ever been to something like that, it's like the movie's being shown, but people are also up in front of the screen, like reenacting it, and like they'd have like Christmas lights as like throwers, and they'd shoot silly spray, and you'd throw marshmallows, and like, they're in the Walter Peck, the mayor's office scene, like somebody would pants him, and he just had like sheer stockings on, like it almost had like a Ken doll, no dick.
Right.
Yeah, it was like crazy. The Ecto-1 was just like a cardboard suit. Somebody would run around the audience, and it had lights on it. It was a wild show. It was called Minions of Gozer, and Ryan Espen played Venkman. He's tall, lanky, great guy, really great guy, good friend. And and then we would open the show together as Jake and Elwood, and he got me involved in the New York City Ghostbusters. At the time, he wasn't a president; he was just part of the group. He was like, "Why don't you come hang out?" And hung out with those dudes, had a good time, and beer and pizza, but Ghostbusters. And I was like, "Yeah, I could fit in with this." So yeah, I've been a member for a long time now. We do a lot of charity stuff. I since getting older and having kids and stuff, kind of like I'm less active in like the going out there and doing a slime lab with the kids type of thing, but I'm more behind the scenes doing like a lot of the artwork.
Okay.
I do, so like I just designed for the glue bottles that they use in the slime labs, like an Elmer's glue, but it's like Gozer's glue, and instead of like the cow, it's a it's a pterodog. Right. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But and I just did a print for a Comic-Con for them that they were, and like they got this big backdrop you can take pictures in front of. It's like artwork I did of like, the Ghostbusters doing kind of the real Ghostbusters take on the music video,
Right. Yeah, I love
doing
that one.
coming down Times Square,
Right,
doing
right.
that thing. But I didn't draw a what's his name in it, Ray Parker Jr.
Right.
because I
Right.
just thought it would have been too confusing to people.
But that scene is now canon to the Ghostbusters universe because it was
Yeah.
in Frozen Empire, which is the weirdest
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
Like the
right?
toys are
That's-
canon to the movies now.
Yeah, that's the same. So what is? Yeah,
They made a cartoon show in the Ghostbusters universe, but
Yeah.
the Ghostbusters movie is a fake movie in the cartoon universe. So it's
yeah.
it's
It's like
all
a
fucked
snake
up.
eating its own tail.
So tell me, so these fan groups, I've always been interested. So are they all kind of connected? Is there some national group that oversees it, or is it really loose?
Yeah. No, Sony Ghost Core. You actually get registered.
Oh,
I
interesting.
have. Yeah, I have. I don't think I can get to it. It's hanging up on the wall somewhere behind me.
Hmm.
It's a like a certificate. I have it like framed and everything from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from Ghost Core. Yeah, they actually sanction. I mean, it works for them. We're free advertising for them. Like it's crazy. Yeah, we help keep it alive in the public.
Hmm.
The peripheral. We know Ghostbusters, but like, you know, Tom that works at the bank who doesn't. He
Right.
doesn't know. You know what I mean? He doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He is a thing he remembered from seeing 40 years ago. So he sees like guys dressed up and they have an Ecto one. It kind of pops it back in their head, and new movie comes out or cartoon or something, they're more inclined
Yeah.
to check it out.
So there's guidelines you need to stick to, I'm assuming, like don't
Yeah.
charge for your appearances.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
charity.
it's all charity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure every chapter has their own set of rules because we have like we have background checks in New York City Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Yeah, because you never
Yeah.
know. You're working around kids and
That's
stuff.
true.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I'd rather it be above board if I'm part of it. To be honest,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to be. I don't want my name associated to anything. Like, come on,
Right. And so the 40th anniversary event's coming up in New York too. They're going to do a big
Oh yeah,
thing
It's
at the
gonna be-
firehouse.
it's gonna be wild. Yeah, I'm doing the art print for that right now.
Nice.
I'm actually just wrapping it up.
Nice.
And yeah, if you come down to that, if you're in New York City, June 8th at noon, you go to the New York City Ghostbusters Firehouse. That's at 14 North Moore Street, the corner of North Moore and Varick.
I was actually filling time bringing
Oh,
up some information about the event.
Oh,
But yeah, you were saying there's going to be guests there. There's going to be you're doing an art print.
yeah. So yeah, if you plan on going, try to get there by noon when it starts because I'm giving away the art print. I think it's only going to be like 150 or 200 like available. It's free. You see me. I'll be dressed like Jake Blues. You'll get one for free as long as I still have them.
Right.
And they go quick. Last year they went insanely quick. Yeah, so they have him. They have John Rothman. He's going to be there. He played the in the original Ghostbusters and in Frozen Empire. Played the library guy.
Right.
What has that got to do with it? That guy. Yeah, we got the cop. You do your job, pencil neck. Don't tell me how to do mine. That guy. The Alessi brothers who sing the song "Saving the Day."
I love that song.
Dude, they were there last year. Dude, they set up in front of the firehouse. I'll send you a video.
Uh-huh.
It was like they did the song. It was wild. I got a picture with them. They signed my album and everything. I was like,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
These guys, I don't know. The Mad Splatter. I think they're out of Philly or out of Buffalo.
Okay.
Their band, the big Ghostbusters fans. I
Yeah,
don't know, just I guess
Philadelphia
to
band.
get out there, and rock
Nice.
it out. And one of the guys, Dan from the Buffalo Ghostbusters, who puts this together, he actually just told me, he was like, I can't wait to tell you something that's gonna be going down. I'm gonna let you know tomorrow. He's like, pay attention at noon tomorrow. There's gonna be a big announcement.
Oh man.
It's like, I'm psyched to hear what you think. I was like,
Nice.
all right, man. Yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
That's exciting. Yeah, I wish I could make it out. We were like looking at what summer vacation trips we could make, and landed on
Yeah,
Florida, and it actually happens like on that date. So,
I hear you.
um,
You know what? It's a lot for one day.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's hard to justify a whole trip for one day, so I get it. But I live right there, like
yeah.
firehouse. If I drive to firehouse, it's like 40 minutes from my house.
And they've got
But
the sign hanging properly now.
yeah, they got the sign up properly, which
That's
I'm happy to
great.
see. Yeah, I haven't seen it. The last time I was up at the firehouse was in March, and they had it decked out for Frozen Empire.
Hmm.
So they had like the fake ice and everything. So
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I didn't even get to see it like proper with my own eyes.
Right.
But yeah, it's a cool thing. Like I said, they have some people appeared in Ghostbusters, and they have some of the music there, and they're also going to have the walking tour, where it's the location tour. So it goes all around Manhattan. Like you jump on the
Yeah,
train to
yeah.
some parts, and you go to like different locations. The New York Public Library, the building that's subbed in from the Manhattan Museum of Art from the
Hmm.
from Ghostbusters 2. It's
Yeah.
the Museum of Native American history or something like that.
Hmm.
I don't remember. And there's you go up by the Gozer, the Shandor building up on
Yeah.
Central Park West, and Tavern on the Green where Lewis runs into. You go up by there. It's all over the place. It's
That's
really
cool.
cool. Yeah. Oh, there's ectos. People just bring their ecto. People come from all over the country, different ecto ones.
Yeah,
Really
we
cool
had one
stuff.
out here in Chicago for the Wonderverse opening. I think it was the one. I think it was a New Jersey one.
Oh, the New
Um,
Jersey guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Ecto. Yeah.
yeah. So I went out
Yeah,
there and
yeah,
looked at
yeah.
that.
He's
That
a
was
good
wild.
guy.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's a good dude.
it's kind of great that they're having a resurgence. I don't know when or if there's going to be another movie, but I mean, we should be
Oh,
thankful that we've gotten. I mean, the fact that Ghostbusters 4 happened so quickly after 3, when 3 was
yeah.
like never going to happen, is just
Never.
wild to me.
It was in like development hell since the 90s.
Right.
Like Dan Aykroyd was trying to get that off the ground. There's like, I'd give anything to read that whole script, that Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent script
Yeah.
that he wrote. There's that one, and also I'd love to read that one that Gene Stupinski and the other guy, I forgot the guys who did like Year One with
Mm,
Harold Ramis,
yeah.
like the guys who did like a bunch of episodes of The Office and everything. They wrote like a third Ghostbusters, like under like you know assignment by Harold Ramis.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Year One bombed so hard it killed it.
God, yeah.
Yeah, it killed everything about that. But yeah, there was a script written. It was
Yeah.
like it's out there.
Oh, that's wild. I mean, what are your hopes? Are you hoping for a fifth movie? Do you want to see it go somewhere else, like cartoons again, or?
Um, I'm always gonna say yes. I want a new cartoon. But I don't have faith in modern animation, to be
Mm,
honest. Modern television animation.
right.
I mean, I haven't checked out any of X-Men '97 yet, and that's just because I just have not had the time. I'm dying to. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of the
yeah,
original. I heard that is, right on the money. But everything else, man, I'm not into like a lot of CG. Outside of like what Lucasfilm does, I'm not into a lot of just like CG cartoons. I want hand drawn. I
yeah,
know we're
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna get that. I know you're not gonna get a hand drawn Ghostbusters cartoon.
Nah, it's gonna be CG. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
100%. And there's the there's always the chance it goes like, and this isn't a knock,
right.
like a knock on the style, like Teen Titans, Rise. Even though I do love Teen Titans, the comedy of it, but like it does set that precedence for that chibi like Rise of Ninja
Mm,
Turtles, Thundercats, all these things they try to like that Steven Universe style of
yeah, yeah,
which it works for some things. I'm not knocking it really. Like it works for certain things. Just Thundercats, really? That works? That's what you think of? You know what I mean? Like it runs the risk of hitting that.
yeah,
I know some people might hate
yeah,
me. I think that Rise of Ninja Turtles does have a fan base. It's just it's not for me.
yeah. I could see that. I could see them going that direction. But
And, it's not like I'm scared of new Ninja Turtles. I loved Mutant Mayhem, but I just think a television cartoon series is gonna be rank. It's gonna stink. It's gonna be, it's gonna be butt. Big old
I mean,
butt.
we could be surprised. Maybe they're looking at X-Men 97 and they're like, you know what? Let's bring back real Ghostbusters and tell new stories.
I hope. I mean,
That would be
I've
pretty
been,
sick.
I've been proven wrong before. I wouldn't mind. When it's something I love, I do not mind being proven wrong
Yeah.
when I'm being negative about it.
And then
That's
the phone call
actually-
comes and they're like, we need someone to work on this show.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. We
See?
need you to clean our bathrooms and mop the floor, Chris.
Well, you'll be there.
I would, no matter what. No matter
So
what they
you've got, as far as like stuff to plug as we near the end of the show, there's art prints on your website. There's T-shirts.
Yeah.
I own quite a few of the art prints.
Yes. Yeah. I'll send you the. Don't tell anybody else. I'll send you the
Oh, man.
exclusive Ghostbusters Day One.
Oh, thank you.
Nobody else.
Thank
Just
you.
Barry. You got it.
I absolutely love them though. This one's just iconic. This one I think blew up. The Dirt Farm.
Yeah. That kind of put me on the map a little bit.
I love that one. And then of course you have
my
the
favorite.
latest one here, the Frozen Firehouse. You said this was a reworking of one that you had in
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah. So I had done a piece of the Ghostbusters Firehouse. Excuse me, with the containment unit exploding and the beam, going up to the roof. And like I said, I work, everything I work is on layers. I could pull things. It's like, you know what? I could rework this into a Frozen thing. Once the trailer hit, I came out with that.
And then this one's such a deep cut.
Yes. So that's with the broken tip and everything. That's from Casper, the 1995 live action Casper movie. Christina Ricci.
And he's got the mustache too. It's just
that was
too much.
That was when 1995 or whenever they were filming this movie. I guess probably 94. Dan Aykroyd was simultaneously filming Exit to Eden with Rosie O'Donnell, and he was sporting that sweet stance mustache, and he had it for that weird cameo in Ghostbusters.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's just like Harrison Ford having that beard in his young Indiana Jones. It's like, I'm not shaving it. At least they didn't CG it out. That would have been...
No, that would have been really bad.
Or they put
he was
fake
shooting,
skin over it.
He's just got a real lumpy face.
What was he making, The Fugitive?
Yeah, he was making The Fugitive at the time.
Right.
And which is that movie holds up, man. I watched it recently. I was like, oh, this movie still holds up. That's a great movie, man. That might have been 94 also.
This is some great art too. Like, I gotta tell anyone who's interested in your stuff, go over to your website and pick these up. You can go to chrisjsorrentino.com, and then there's a link tree too that they can get from your socials too.
Yeah, you can find all that, or even just you go to pizzaplasm.com, or just Google real Ghostbusters. You'll find me.
Oh, and there's a ton of shirts too.
Yeah, so these are through TeePublic.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just give them the design and they print on demand, so I don't have to deal with sending shirts out to people, and you see nothing. Like, I'm not even kidding. I don't know what they charge. I think normally $22, but then they always have sales 35% off. If you don't see a sale, if you want one of these shirts and you don't see a sale, just wait a week. You'll see the sale by the shirt. I make $2 off every shirt. It's disgusting. But I want people to be happy and have my stuff, and I don't want to fucking, put more time into my life mailing things to people.
Right. And you want to beat the bootleggers too, to be honest.
You want to beat the bootleggers, and also I don't want to sit on 1,000. I've been in bands my whole life. I was a sketch comedy troupe. I have sat on boxes of T-shirts, unsold T-shirts, forever. I could probably clothe all of the homeless in New York City with all of the T-shirts
And you
I
know what
lost in my
happened
basement
too?
to hurricane sand.
You'd say, "Oh, I bought 50 of Ray. I got 50 of Peter. I bought 50 of Winston, and now I'm just sitting on 50 Winston shirts." That's what's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
exactly. It's like I bought 50 size small Winstons.
Because
And
that's my
nobody
target
was a
right
size
now.
small.
It's 4 Fright Feature Winstons just on the peg. No one else. And Winston was my favorite of the Fright Features. It was the first one I owned of those. I only had him for years, and then I had to later go out and get the other ones. But
I have to say Ray was my favorite because he had the ecto goggles.
yeah.
And that was like from the movie.
Yeah, I have him this one sitting next to me.
Yeah, the Peter one, that's a great one.
The weirdest, he's going fishing, but he is going fishing. It's like he's got a fishing, it's the the weirdest concept.
They had the weirdest weapons. I remember like Janine's had one that was like a big comb, and her ghost came with hair, and you're like, so you gotta this is how you're gonna bust the ghost? You're gonna comb it? You're gonna comb its hair?
Maybe that's the next Ghostbusters movie. They're gonna be like Winston's like tech garage, and he's like, "We have new ways of busting ghosts. This ghost is made of hair. We're gonna comb it." And be like, "Oh."
See, I was thinking they have like a ghost barbershop movie, and they're just cutting ghost hair, and then like a ghost walks in and they're talking shit, and the ghost, and it's just like 4 old guys cutting. Well, I guess 3 old guys cutting hair. Yeah. Talking shit to each other while ghosts are getting their haircuts.
Well, that's the Ghostbusters pop-up books. If you've ever seen those, the real Ghostbusters pop-up books, they bust ghosts, but the ghosts are there. I think there's 3 of them, 3 or 4 of the books, but one of them is a ghost that just wants to take a shower, and because he's like, "I'm dirty, I need a shower," and they're like,
dirty boy.
Yeah, and then the other one is a ghost that just wants to work out. He's like, "I'm fat, I need to work out," and they're like, "Oh, well, we'll burn off some of the ghost fat with our we'll adjust the settings." And he goes, "Oh, thanks, I'm thin now. Thank you." Like, it's the weirdest. They're the weirdest books. Yeah, and then another one's a ghost that's just haunting a little boy and making his life terrible.
Really?
And they're really weird. The birthday ghost, the health club ghost, and like the shower ghost or something. Look them up. They're the weirdest books.
I am a very big real Ghostbusters connoisseur. I've never heard of those.
They're the weird, and they don't even bust the ghosts. They're just like, "Oh, you got to lose some weight." So yeah, I mean, maybe that's the direction they're going with it.
Yeah, they went for more pacifistic, ways of dealing with spirits and ghouls.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Chris, thank you so much for hopping on. Really appreciate it. I love your art. I love hearing about how you make it. I love everything about you. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else you got coming up next. And you've already talked. People can see you at the New York 40th anniversary Firehouse Party going on June 8th. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else coming up? I mean, you got some secret projects, but
yeah, you know what? Just go to superliveadventure.com and listen to us, John Zaluga and I. It's really funny. It's bizarre. You might like it. If it's for you, you'll love it. Let's just put it that way. If it's not for you, you might be like, whatever, I gave it a shot. But if it's for you, you're gonna fucking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. Just and check out just my socials, stuff that's going on. I do some live gigs here and there. I do weird artwork. Besides Ghostbusters, just weird stuff. Yeah. Put out weird videos here and there. I'm just a weird guy. I like weird stuff and funny, weird, farts.
You've got an eclectic mix of things, but they're all great. I love them all. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm glad she kept it together the whole show.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time on the SEGAbits Swingin' Report show. We've got some other shows planned, but in the meantime, we'll see you on Sega Talk. We've got Virtua Cop coming up. So see you then. And I've never had a sign off. So bye.
Peace.